Thanks, everybody. Just a little bit more. So my perspective is going to come from operational technology perspective, from the operation and maintenance side, not the IT side. Now, I have personally worked in corporate IT. I started my career in corporate IT, and I transitioned into operational technology throughout my career, where I was a senior manager of systems engineering, and I led an OT cyber team, a systems maintenance team, and the engineering team. So this is a perspective where I'm coming from, and hopefully this makes sense. Also, this presentation is to give you a high level. The goal is to see, will you go back to your agencies? Hopefully this puts a question in your head. You ask some questions here, but start the conversation, because cyber is a big journey. There's no quick and fast way of doing things. Okay, so a couple good presentations happened today on the SCADA one. There's an IT/OT one, there was another one, and cybersecurity was about an underpinning. They kept talking about cyber in those. So I believe this presentation goes well with those ones here, because first of all, why does cyber even matter in operational technology? So let's ask a few questions as we go through this and go through a bit of a journey. So first question we want to answer is, why is cyber so important, right? We're going to talk about IT/OT convergence at a high level. We're going to talk about kind of who is actually targeting us, like who are the actors coming after us, and what are some practical cybersecurity measures that can be implemented. And I say the word practical because you can go into a rabbit hole in cyber and you can go in a million different directions, but it is very important to be practical and look at what your agency or business can actually handle and do, and in the confines of all the operational constraints you have. And then how specific measures can be implemented. We're going to go through two high-level things that I have personally implemented throughout my career and I've seen work really well, and maybe you can possibly do something. So let's talk about what's happening in all of our environments. We have gone from a place of having our operations being containered, like in single locations, electrical, mechanical, with no connections to anywhere. Over time, that is changing. The world is getting bigger, and there's something driving all of this. It's essentially IT/OT convergence. You have your traditional machinery and electronics that now need to start communicating with all these other systems, and our traditional IT is coming to the mix. Systems is no longer electrical and mechanical systems. They're like 50% IT now, right? Operational technology has immense amount of IT components. So the industry is changing. The skills needed to maintain your environments are changing. So what's driving all of this? Well, one of the biggest things from my experience is asset management is a big thing that's driving a lot of that. Businesses, agencies want to move away from reactive maintenance to predictive to preventative maintenance. Well, they need information and data for that. They need telemetry. They need to have trends. They want real-time information. You can only take that out of sensors and SCADA systems. You have to send it somewhere. Usually you end up sending it to the corporate system, enterprise asset management system. So there's that little IT/OT convergence right there. Operational efficiency. You know, there's not enough money to keep hiring people for everything. Inspections take a lot of time in most agencies, but most of the equipment you buy have smarts in them. They'll tell you when they don't feel good. They'll tell you when something's not working. So why send out a tech to look at something when they can do it? Instead, you can send them out for a corrective action. And a lot of agencies are starting to see this, and they want to capitalize on it. But again, you need information. You need data for that. Customer expectations and service reliability. I don't know how many times, anytime there's a power outage, I'm on BC Hydro's website looking at the power outage map, right? And customers want that kind of information. They want to know if the service is running, and there's higher pressure coming from boards and people that they want to know what's happening with the services that are provided to them. They want real-time information, right? So that is driving another need. And one of the biggest things is the OEMs and the vendors themselves. They're replacing, they're modernizing. They are now putting in smarts into things. They're buying commodity IT pieces and putting them in their equipment. It's cheaper, it's mass produced, it's seemingly what the business wants, and they have to do way less research and development. A PLC is a mini computer now, right? Depending on what you get. It's got Ethernet, RTUs, RTACs. They're all interconnected. IEDs are connecting. Everything is Ethernet connected, right? And then obviously there's regulatory concerns. People want data. You need to give information to people. So there's this world where you have our operational people who are working on their SCADAs, who are working on their machinery and their sensors. You have our IT people on the other side who have all these EAM systems, financial payroll systems, and in the middle they need to talk. They need to do something with each other. People want information data to make decisions. And why this is increasing risk is that the world is getting bigger. Your attack surface is getting larger and larger, right? You can't, compromising a facility is no longer driving to the facility, going through a locked door to do something. You can get to it a half a world away, right? If it's connected to the internet, right? So that's what's happening there. Your legacy OT systems are not designed for security in mind. They're just not. They don't have the modern functionalities. And we bought these assets for 35-year asset lives, 40-year asset lives. And they're still in production today. And we're not going to replace them because it's extremely expensive, right? Most people replace pieces out slowly as they break. And the last thing is the networks that were built initially in OT were flat. Everything was connected to everything. No one really thought about segmenting. No one really thought about the cyber perspective because it was all very different at that time. So we can go through a couple things. This is not to alarm anyone here. This is mainly to tell that there are risks out there and you really need to understand the kind of things coming your way, right? So you generally have 4 types of actors. You have nation states. And this is actually very much more prevalent nowadays than any time. So in 2013, the Iranian IRCG compromised the Bovin Dam in New York. Luckily, that dam was offline for maintenance, but they got in because someone decided to connect a control system to an LTE modem, right? Just as recently right now, if you look at CISA, a lot of our American counterparts, they're targeting a very large PLC manufacturer as we speak and have successfully exploited wastewater facilities and energy facilities in the United States by not hacking the system, but taking advantage of interconnected PLCs and control systems on the internet and then using the vendor's own software to log into them and then send commands, right? So it's not matrix-style hacking. They're just breaching systems by the way we've designed our systems, right? And this is more and more. The geopolitics of the world is really turbulent nowadays. And I know this, you want to service your customers, but at the same time, you're part of a wider community. And when you get to this level, you are actually being targeted. See, Canadian Center of Cybersecurity has she notices to all wastewater agencies that you are a target right now. And at one of the last slides, I'll give a link to where their assessment came from. Another really important one is Partner Insider. And this is the one that's the most prevalent, and this is the one that usually opens the door for others, like nation states and activists. We all have vendors. We all have contractors that need to come to our sites. We don't know their practices. We all have staff, right? A really, really interesting thing here is in Australia. There was an employee who got let go. He was upset. They never disabled his account. Well, he logged in with a laptop and he dumped 1 million liters of sewage into parks and rivers. And that is a breach. So again, we have to look at and that's the hardest one to deal with, right? We have criminals and they are getting very sophisticated. I've actually gone through this one myself and it paralyzed the enterprise I was with for a year, where criminals come in, they extort the company, they encrypt all your information, and they essentially make it so you can't operate. They disrupt service. Kansas went through this, a city in Kansas, where they got into their IT networks, and luckily for them, someone noticed it, they disconnected their OT side, and they went to manual mode. But again, it happened. In my case, we went through this where half the agency was completely interrupted and paralyzed. And the last one is hacktivists, which is increasing more and more. In Florida, someone just for fun decided to hack into the water treatment center and try to poison everybody. Sodium hydroxide. They tried to change the parts from 100 parts per million to 11,100 parts per million and actually poison everybody in that region. And they just did it because they felt like doing it. And again, the way they got in, at that area, the supervisors in that agency decided that they wanted to remotely access their control environment, so they set up a remote server. And they all shared the same password to get into the control network, right? So again, it's not intentional, but it caused someone to come in and get through it. So this is the landscape we work in, and a lot of this stuff is avoidable, but this is what's happening right now. And these are the actors trying to get to us. So some practical cybersecurity measures that can be implemented. I broke this up in two top things: administrative controls and technical controls. Most people dive right into the technical controls, but I want to talk about administrative controls first, because those are things that almost anyone can do right away without a lot of budget, without a lot of money, because there's not a lot of money here, because you generally have to sell cyber up the chain. Governance, policies, and standards. A really good example was today at the ITOT SCADA, where they talked about a RACI framework. Understanding who does what, getting a governance structure to say that this is how we're going to operate, this is how we're going to scare with the operator or whoever is maintaining that equipment is paramount, so that you can actually focus and start working. Otherwise, you're just going to have infighting. There's going to be territorial fights. Creating policies like incident response plans when you do take, what do you do if something happens? Awareness, training awareness. In my last place I worked, in O&M, we actually made customized training for the technician, power technicians, facility technicians, vehicle technicians, and made it specific to them and their work, so that the machinery they worked on, they looked at. We were trying to make human firewalls, right? Trying to make it so that the human could see something and report it. Not trying to make them security experts, because it's a different field, but just you see something, say something, and let others take care of it. If you make this, it allows for standardization and a consistent approach, but it also aligns people so that people are moving in the same direction. And usually what ends up happening when you start talking about cyber, and this gets into a very complicated issue within operations, because technology management is handled by multiple teams, you get this sorted out, the technical side start kind of taking care of themselves. On the technical side, there's 1,000 controls you can do, but you need to be extremely practical on what you do here, because operations, like all of you know, have a lot of hard constraints. Availability and safety are key. Data and confidentiality is second. So depending on who's doing the work, and I'm coming from an operational lens, it's safety and availability. And you need to put in controls. The controls you did in IT may not work in OT. And a lot of time they don't. You can't patch your SCADA servers every week like you can patch your HR system every week. Engineering needs to reverse it, look at all of it, ensure it's not going to break the downstream processes, right? You're trying to secure the physical process, right? The physical world here. So there's a lot more rigorous process required when you do the simplest thing in operations that seems extremely easy in IT, right? So a couple practical applications. This is an administrative control that I have used in my past that has got me budget, funding, and resources. Because one of the biggest challenges you're going to have at whatever level you are is you need to convince people that this is a problem, right? You need them to understand why they need to put money into your cybersecurity when they need to buy maintenance equipment, they need to hire more people. Why the small amount of dollars they should divert to you? Well, if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. I'll explain it that. If you don't write down the risks and you put the operational impacts against them and you assess them in a way that business understands, and I don't mean from a technical risk, I mean from an operational perspective, that means X happens, and this what means to our water treatment center, that there's no water for the residents because this can happen, right? When that is documented, and when something has been assigned to someone, usually an executive or senior level, because they're usually the only people allowed to own the risk, they're not going to ignore it anymore at all. You know, before I started my O&M job when I was there, people talked about cyber. When I did this, everyone did cyber. Because there's no VP I've ever seen or director I've ever seen saying, I'm cool with the risk. Oh, forget about it. Once their name's attached to something, they start looking at it. They start paying attention to it. Then they start putting, okay, is this real, right? Do I need to do something about it? Because now what you've done, you've documented it. You've put a risk item on it. You've quantified it, right? There's not a better tool in your tool belt if you want budget, funding, and resources. In my previous position, we went from 1 security person to 8. Our budget tripled because we were able to highlight risk, we were able to show risk, and we were able to show deliverables, but practical solutions. And we did not go from A to Z. Oh, 5 minutes. Okay, next one. Sorry. The next one. This is a technical control, but this is something that a lot of things can be solved by. This is the Purdue model. And a typical architecture and operational environments. Most control environments, wastewater, energy, transportation, generally want to follow this. But essentially what you're doing is at different levels of the model, you're doing different processes. You ensure data communications follow a very strict practice. So do not connect the internet to your level 1 sensors or your controllers. Just don't do it. You want to get to those. If there's a business needs to get to them, create an architecture that causes you to go through a plant DMZ or something. This took us, in my last job, 6 years to implement properly, and millions of dollars for us, and we were large. And it doesn't mean that you have to do the same level, but you do need to think about this, because the minute you bypass this, you're getting compromised laterally, you're getting compromised horizontally, and you'll just shut down the entire operation. So you have to be cognizant of this. It follows best practices. It is difficult and not difficult. I know it is saying, but if you go chunk by chunk, secure your most critical assets first, zoom out, and then zoom into something critical, and start slowly piecemealing out. I cannot tell you enough. You crawl, walk, run, fly. Do not just go trying to fly. You will spend millions doing nothing. Literally, nothing. Because you're going to be paralyzed by how big the problem is. Zoom in and start slowly showing progress. Closing statements, got a minute left. Modernization is causing us to go this way. The threat actors are actually evolving faster than we can keep up. You're never going to win fully. It's how you're going to mitigate, how you're going to contain. Risk registers will get you money and funding. Your executives may not like it, but they'll get it for you. Segmentation stops attacks from spreading, right? You got one foothold, don't let them have another foothold. And resilience really isn't optional. Once you get compromised, once the server stops, your public trust is gone. And then the last slide here is a couple of resources from the government. I don't know if they give the slides, hopefully they do. And that's really it. Did I make it in time?
You did a great job.
Sorry.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Jesse. There is time for some questions if there are any.
Super cool stuff, guys. Say something.
Okay, my IT department is, let's say 2 people.
Yes.
My wastewater plant has 1 manager, 3 operators.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to do any of this stuff? Even if I'm going to own the responsibility as the director, like, I don't have anyone to spare to do anything.
No, I understand, and that's
So how do I try to move on? Because if they're just doing it for fun, I mean, Souk's a good place to go have fun.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like I said, this is a challenge with a lot of smaller places, budget funding, and getting people to do this. All I can say here is, you need to make the business case, and you understand, and you start with identifying the risks the best you can, right? Once you identify the risks, you get it in front of the people that you report to. And you say, this is what, you have to transfer the risk onto someone else that has the authority to give you money. Because you can hold the risk, but if you bring up the risk and let's say your board says we don't want to deal with it, it's okay. You keep working, but if you get compromised, that decision is registered. Those people will think twice. I ran into this very same problem. I had to escalate, get documentation ready. It was a challenge. But once the risk got to enough level, they did not want to eat the risk. And they gave some budget, and you slowly start working out. You know, it starts small. And I can't really say it's every agency is different, but that's the way you do it.
Well, municipal councils are notoriously tight, and
Yes.
you do realize that every 4 years, they don't have responsibility anymore.
Yes, yes.
Quick question. What are your thoughts around utilities who say, well, we're not connected to the cloud, we're never going to connect to the cloud, so we don't have to worry about cybersecurity?
Well, I can tell you that most utilities are definitely connected to the internet.
Yeah.
Right? They may not have cloud services for the operational side of the house, but I bet you they're going to be sending data to the internet or to the IT side of the house. So remember, you're getting compromised, maybe not by your OT side. You got compromised by the IT guy. Someone hit that phishing email, right? Right? And the IT side, maybe HR did that, right? That person got through there. He jumped to another place, and then he jumped to another place. And because you don't have proper segmentation and separation between IT and OT, he jumped into your control network, right? This is exactly what happened to us when we happened. Our IT side got compromised. Our radio systems for bus gone. SkyTrain kept going because we segmented across. They blocked at the entry point. We did not. We were like Gandalf, man. You shall not pass, right? But it's not realistic. And also, just because you're not connected to the cloud or the internet doesn't mean you're not getting compromised. You still have local access. You still have vendors. You still have people coming in to your environment, plugging in LTE routers, and transversing yourselves. I mean, you still need to think about these things because it will happen. There are multiple ways to connect. And all this equipment now gives you the ability to connect that you weren't able to do before.
Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. I definitely learned a lot. I'm just curious, and I'm sure you get this a lot, right? That with the pace of innovation on the AI side of things, at what point are you going to be outcompeted by it on the cybersecurity? I mean, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't take those steps. I mean, those are absolutely essential, but just curious what your thoughts are on that, and if there's any, I guess, ongoing efforts in our industry or things that people can like kind of follow to keep tabs on that.
So from the age of time, agencies have always been on the losing battle on cyber. You will never have as much money as other governments or criminals. It's just what it is. AI has exacerbated the situation because now you don't even need people to attack you. You can have a computational device figure every flaw out for you. You do the best you can, you onion up, and what you have to really do is get ready for the day and understand you will be compromised. It's how you contain it. How you contain the damage is one. Don't ever think you're not going to get compromised because everyone thinks it's not me. It will be you. Guaranteed. Just expect you're going to have the 100-year storm that comes through. You're going to have the 100-year cyber attack that's going to paralyze you. It will happen to you. Get ready. Design the best you can to contain the damage. And once it's contained, start surgically removing it. That's the best I can tell, right? There's no magic bullet to this, unfortunately.
All right, last question, please.
Yeah.
More of a comment than a question or a story I could quickly tell. We had a recent event maybe a month or two ago where our SCADA, or remote SCADA access was isolated because our IS team picked it up on a cyber attack. But that put us in a situation where we almost had to go to manual operation for all of our water treatment, wastewater collection, and water distribution as well.
Yeah.
So just a heads up for everyone, really think about what your system looks like if you have to go to manual operation. That is a big mouthful, I understand, but think about it. It's hard to even conceptualize if you could run your system without having your SCADA system. Fortunately, in this situation, we still had a local, like onto our local thin and thick clients, and we were fine. But we had to go down to our ops center to do that monitoring, and then we didn't have any other than our, you know, remote auto dialer stuff where it has a trigger from a particular site if you have that at some spots. But
And that's your
you have to think
contingency
about
plan.
it.
And that's exactly when I say your containment plan. What are your procedures to keep operations running? Like you said, you might not have to go to manual mode. Do people even remember how to do that? Right? What I'm saying is, it's training that has to keep going. It's a process, right?
Everybody, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing everybody at the wrap reception. Thank you.